All right, so this is the next level in my vibrational levels map that I created to explain the truth about what the spiritual journey actually is. No form or tradition that I've been able to find has captured this in the same way I'm going to describe it. So as we progress through the levels, you'll start to understand where those past traditions went wrong and develop a greater understanding of spiritual progression. And the way I created this map, I detail each level one by one using either song lyrics or historical spiritual quotes from past gurus to explain each level as I experienced it on multiple ascents that I personally went through. This is an experiential map. In the future, I'll create a taxonomic version where I'll show like all these profound connections that explain these levels from a fundamental perspective. I've had problems in the past being consistent on YouTube, so what I did this time is I pre-recorded all 13 levels and I'm just going to release them intermittently. I'll either do like one level at a time or a few at a time. So when we get into level 7 and above, I imagine that's going to be like extremely informative, and it's going to probably blow a lot of people's minds. So press the subscribe button because I'm going to reveal a lot of the truths that have yet to be explained anywhere else. So before getting into the levels, I want to briefly explain what I mean by a vibrational level. So what I mean by that is it's a phase of consciousness that determines how much power a person can safely access. The phase you're in depends on how you interpret reality, where you locate authority, and how much influence you can safely wield. The levels describe a progression in which each phase produces the realizations needed to enter the next. People can operate at different levels in different areas of their lives, so the map describes the structure operating within a particular experience. Essentially, you can see in the left panel over there where I've already named each of the levels, so you can have an idea of where this is leading. Odd numbered levels are experiential levels, even numbered levels are recognition levels. Embodiment of the prior recognition is what moves you up to the next level. The general process of the first 6 levels is the exhaustion of all external paths to truth. Level 7 through 13, especially 10 and above, get very weird and more difficult to explain. But I imagine those will be the points where most people are going to be the most interested. At any rate, I want to detail these levels so anyone can see the actual direction that the journey itself takes, and so that the higher levels can be more easily solidified into a clear structure. This video covers level 2. For the full explanation of how the map works and why it contains 13 levels, check out the introduction to vibrational levels video that I've already released. So I decided to use song lyrics throughout these videos because they often capture the internal experience of a level very precisely. In the lower level, songs give people a way to relate to the problems, desires, and emotional structures organizing their lives, even when they've never conceptualized those structures directly. As consciousness rises, the meaning conveyed through songs can become increasingly explicit and direct, sometimes expressing a realization or current experience with remarkable precision. This makes lyrics useful for showing what each level feels like from within it, which problem defines it, and which realization moves you beyond it. Okay, so level 2 is an even number, and even number levels are recognition levels. This odd even pattern continues upwards until level 10, where something strange happens, but I'll explain that when we get there. Until then, it'll be easy to notice this odd even pattern. Level 2 begins when you become capable of observing the condition that previously contained you. In level 2, the recognition of the mistaken premise comes into understanding. You can identify the external pressure, internal pattern, or repeated contradiction governing your experience. Recognition, however, does not immediately produce freedom. You can understand why you're suffering while remaining psychologically, materially, or behaviorally organized around the same pattern. Level 2 establishes the distinction required for change. It doesn't yet supply the power or method to make that change. So the two songs I found that explain this level quite well are Linkin Park's Numb and NF's Happy. Numb identifies the external conditions through which your identity can become suppressed. Happy identifies the internal attachment through which that condition continues after it has become familiar. So we're not going through the full entire songs, we're just addressing little snippets from each. So the first part I picked from Numb goes, I'm tired of being what you want me to be, feeling so faithless, lost under the surface, don't know what you're expecting of me, put under the pressure of walking in your shoes. Every step that I take is another mistake to you. So the opening describes what happens when your behavior becomes organized around someone else's expectations. Every action is measured against an externally imposed identity. So even your attempts to satisfy that identity produce another experience of failure. Your own identity hasn't disappeared, but has been buried underneath the version of yourself that you've been trying to perform. At level one, you experience the numbness without clearly understanding its structure. At level two, you recognize the relationship between the numbness and the pressure producing it. Then I found this other section from Numb that goes, I've become so numb, I can't feel you there. I've become so tired, so much more aware. I'm becoming this when all I want to do is be more like me and be less like you. So he recognizes that becoming what someone else wanted requires losing contact with himself. Wanting to become more like me means he can finally recognize that his identity exists separately from the expectations governing him. This is the service to self conditioned expression of level two. You've given authority over your own movement to someone or something else, and finally begin to see how parental pressure, education, religion, social approval, romantic approval, duty, or shame taught you to live through an externally constructed identity. Recognizing that authority doesn't immediately remove its influence, but it makes the structure visible. So numb represents the outward facing recognition of level two. In the instance of numb, an external will has shaped your identity. A general note I have to anybody is you can't ever live your life for someone else without creating serious problems for yourself. The reasons for this are going to be clear as we cover higher levels, but I'll say a few things about this at this point. In Chester Bennington's case, given the lyrics expressed as the childhood desire for parental approval. As a child, it's no big deal, but as one grows older, if your entire life becomes structured around the approval of others, you give up your own capacity to live your life as your own. This level two thing expresses it in all sorts of ways. It can express as people pleasing, where you feel personally inadequate or incomplete without the approval of others, so you continually put yourself out just so that others respond to you favorably. Eventually, other people's preferences become the organizing authority over your identity and behavior rather than your own. It can also express as subordination. In this kind of case, you may lack confidence in the value of your own direction, so you surrender present agency in the hope that an authority figure will eventually recognize your value and reward you with a promotion. Eventually, that person's judgment, their judgment, determines how you spend your time, apply your abilities, and measure your own progress. It can also express as like chronic financial support. So sometimes, like you might feel guilt or fear of abandonment or the need to feel indispensable. It can make your value become dependent upon keeping another person secure. Eventually, their stability becomes the organizing purpose of your labor while your own direction remains perpetually deferred. Can also express a sacrifice. So, like, you can surrender your own time, opportunities, or desires so that another person can benefit. And then, in some cases, you might expect their eventual gratitude, loyalty, or reciprocation to make the sacrifice meaningful. Eventually, when you do this, your life becomes organized around an implicit debt. Sort of like, I gave this up for you, so you must someday prove that giving it up was worthwhile. Or even if it's not about receiving anything, the more you live your life this way, the more you just end up regretting it. And people who have midlife crises are the ones who live their lives primarily for others. Then they get to the halfway point, then they feel like they haven't been living at all because their life up to that point has not felt like their own. So all of these contain the same tacit admission of powerlessness. You lack a direction you regard as sufficiently valuable to organize your life around, so another person supplies a borrowed direction. Your purpose, value, and eventual fulfillment are then placed in the hands of someone who can never return the portion of your life spent serving them. So moving forward now, NF's happy turns the recognition inward. It shows what happens after a painful state has lasted long enough that your identity begins organizing itself around it. So I picked these lyrics from the song. They go, I'm too proud to open up and ask you to pick me up and pull me out this hole I'm trapped in. The truth is, I need help, but I just can't imagine who I'd be if I was happy. Yeah, I've been this way so long, it feels like something's off when I'm not depressed. Got issues that I won't address, some baggage I ain't open yet, got some demons I should put to rest, got some traumas that I can't forget. So the central line is that he can't imagine who he'd be if the suffering disappeared. His present identity was formed inside the condition he wants to escape. So leaving that condition would also require overcoming the issues that have been keeping him in the powerless state. You'll repeatedly return to level two as you deal with different problems in your life. When you're in the type of avoidance NF is in and happy, you'll stay stuck in levels one and two until you finally decide to face whatever issues are holding you back. So even if you can recognize that your current state's destroying you, the negative external circumstances leading to the depression will keep repeating until you're finally ready to put an end to it. The fact that something feels wrong when he's not depressed reveals how thoroughly the condition can become normalized. The unopened baggage explains how this baseline maintains itself. NF can identify the unresolved issues, trauma, and avoided material, but identifying them is not the same as processing them. He has enough distance to inventory the structure, but it's not enough movement to reorganize it. Happy adds that external pressure may explain how you lost contact with your power. The resulting condition can eventually become self-maintaining. You adapt to the pain, build an identity inside it, and then experience the unknown beyond it as a threat to continuity. Level two is where you finally see this contradiction. You cannot continue living in the familiar condition, but you don't yet know how to exist outside it. The next few levels are the general tendency that most of us unconsciously move towards as we continue to ignore those issues. So that's it for level two. Remember to subscribe to get the next ones as they're coming out in the coming weeks.
The last thing I needed to say is what I decided to do was I created the first 6 levels in a full video. So, and then I uploaded individual like 10-minute clips that of like each individual level that I'm releasing over the course of weeks. So if you've watched this one and now you're interested in seeing the full 1 to 6, just go click on the channel and then you can go and find the full video there.